I want to start by asking you, why it was so important for you all to produce an issue honoring the march, and how did that conversation kind of begin? And we're going to just flash a quick picture of the cover for you all.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for us, I mean, obviously being a minority-owned creative studio, so obviously I'm African American, first generation, and my partner Elle is Puerto Rican. So for both of us to be minorities and to just see the continual oppression of you know minority groups, specifically the African American group, it fired us up. And I mean, honestly, for us, it's just about speaking through kind of our language and what we generally do. So, we're creators, we're makers. So we really just wanted to kind of use some of our skills and some of our capabilities and our network to kind of put something together that would be special. That, it's a narrative that is developed by us and not them. So.
Great, great. So, I mean, you have a lot of interesting parts in this collaboration. And so one of my favorites was definitely the illustration called Uncle Sam's Fable. And so we're also going to show you all that really quickly. And it's an illustrated piece that uses, somewhat playful imagery to really drive home this point about the white psyche and its ability or inability to recognize racism, and oppression for what it is, and, their role within it. And so it's kind of like, what in your opinion defines allyship, and like, what are some positive examples?
That's a great question. I think allyship is really rooted in a deep empathy for the victim of marginalization. So, and I think deep is important in that phrase because I think on certain levels, probably the majority of people feel a certain sense of empathy. Think about George Floyd, and there aren't many people out there that probably would openly say that wasn't wrong. Even fairly, racist leaning people would say that was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you have a deep empathy, then you actually feel what those people feel on more than just a surface level. So I think that allyship starts with that, because after that, you're just going to be an ally. You're going to speak and fight in whatever way that whether that's just having conversations with some of your friends or some of your family to try to change the narrative that they may believe about African Americans, or whether it's as big as going out to a protest or, running for office or whatever it may be, So I think the actions are important, but the true feeling of deep empathy is what spurs the action.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. And so, keeping in line with like this idea of a fable, you also worked with Alex Undone. She created an op-ed, or she wrote an op-ed for us that really kind of talks about this idea of colorism and how even she had bought into it at one point, and just kind of that experience of distancing oneself from their Blackness to become professionally successful, and then finding a point where that was just not that you realize how ridiculous that is, and you kind of come back to this sense of self. And so, can you think of a time where you ever felt like you needed to assimilate more to be successful, and at what point in your life did you decide that you wanted to lean into your identity?
So I think for me, my experience is a bit nuanced, because I've never necessarily felt like, so again, I mentioned earlier, I'm first generation. So my dad is from Guyana, in South America. So, I've always kind of been brought up strong in those roots, and I've always been very, very proud to be, Guyanese. So it's weird, because I think a lot of the, identity issues within our community root in the fact of like, we don't know where we come from. So I kind of had the benefit of knowing at least to Guyana where I came from. So I always had pride in that. And I think what that did for me is allow me to know I have pride in that and understand the system and know the system of oppression, but to also just kind of create in a way of like, what in the ethers is my mind on, and, just is super kind of, I'd say like cloudy, like just high type of concepts.
Mhm.
And I was okay with that, like I was okay with kind of creating, in this existential place. But the thing about the existence is that if our existence here isn't good, or like we don't have the same rights as other people that exist here, then I don't have the right to be pondering about other existences. I need to kind of pull myself down to the ground and, kind of put my mind to the issues at hand so that I can make, I can just kind of make the world a better place for my daughter coming up. So.
Yeah, that's really, I think that that's beautiful. As a Black man raising a little girl, like there are so many things that you will have to kind of dispel in your household, to kind of protect her so that
Mhm.
she doesn't have a skewed perception of beauty or doesn't appreciate herself. And I thought that that was something really great that came through in the op-ed where, Alex, even her name Undone is kind of the dismantling of this identity that she created that was rooted in her, having these more European features. And, and that's a very positive message, a very positive message. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. So, okay. You also commissioned Maps Glover to do a cover for this issue. Could you kind of speak to a little bit that process? Were you really involved, or did you all kind of like give him some themes to just run with it? What was that?
So I think the benefit of like having very extremely talented friends is that, when you have people you connect with, especially on a kind of creative level, you don't like your communication doesn't have to be so literal, and your communication doesn't even have to be like traditional communication, right? So I don't have to like necessarily creative direct that, because Maps is just so ill. Like I just, the only word I'd said is freedom, and he went in the cave for some weeks and came out with like that beautiful work of art. So I don't have anything else to say about that other than it's absolutely wonderful. I had no hand in it at all.
Okay.
If he wanted to participate, he said yes, and then he cooked that up. So that's one of my favorite parts of the feature. So.
And so is that, kind of how you would say a lot of the issue came together? Because when we first met, you all definitely had some concepts laid out and people that you had already contacted. And so was it as simple as, you guys got an idea, bring it together, or were you definitely more involved in some other aspects?
I think no, I really think that every single article was almost a form of like a conversation that I had with that individual at some point, even if it was like months ago, even if it was, me and Joe Marshall are really, really close friends. So we always kind of have like these kind of conversations about like world affairs and current events that lead to kind of art ideas and our both our respective practices. So it's like most of it was just conversations, and they did their thing, and we collaborated with them on the content of what they would want to do. But then after that, it was like that was all them. So
That was all them. Okay. All right. I love that. We really just that we facilitated some things within this and connected some things, but this was really their baby, you
mhm.
know. So as a Black design firm, this was your first time going to print. How does that feel?
It's dope. It's super dope. So it's for us, it's just about like having an opinion on anything visual. So it's like I have a candle that's going to come out next month,
Oh,
and
wow,
that
okay.
also is for charity. But it's just about like having an opinion about the world. So for you and Lafayette to work with us on this and bear with us through our ignorance of not running running a publication. It was awesome. It was a good experience. So.
Great, great, great. And so do you all think that you're going to like, slide into the world of publication? Do you think that you'll want to do more magazines or zines or were you traumatized?
No, I think as we want to exist in as many worlds as like we can be thoughtful around, right? So it's like
Mhm.
there's never any like no, we'll never do this, or yes, we'll always do this. It's just okay, cool. What is the story? What we're trying to tell, and what medium can we use? So.
Cool, cool. So that's interesting because I know that you work more with technology in your artwork, but for this issue, you used a different medium, which was painting. So is that your first time painting?
No, not my first time painting. I think again, just kind of being like I guess I try to like stay as curious as like I watch my daughter playing and she just wants to touch everything. Like she wants to
Mhm.
get under everything. She wants to see how it works. If I pull something out of my pocket, she's trying to grab it from me. So I try to like mimic that in my work and be as creative as I possibly can. So again, it's like, going from digital, whether it be projection mapping and stuff like that, or whether it be like, a painting or a zine or, a sculpture, whatever it may be, I intend to kind of do whatever makes sense for like that concept.